Hi there. Obviously I'll be talking to you all tomorrow, but I wanted to talk to you today a little bit about structure.
I will introduce you firstly.
Oh yes, that would be nice.
Crystal is a trainer based on ELT and language academy in Seoul, Spain. He worked with teachers across a wide variety of contexts, as in-house level and as tutor of trained certificate and diploma courses, and in conjunction with local education authorities. He was previously held post with the British Consul in Damascus and Barcelona. He is a regular speaker on the international conference started and first methodology book, Understanding and Teenagers in the ELT room. Now available for having published in media.
Thank you. So, yeah, just to add to that, I work for ELT in Seville. You can see I'm already wearing the t-shirt. This is an academy in Seville. I'd like to thank them for actually giving me the time to be here. So I wanted to talk about structure and how to a smaller or a greater extent we can structure nearly everything we do in the class. So I'm just going to give you a potpourri of different things related to teams teaching and demonstrate where I think our margin, our flexibility comes. First I'm going to show you a picture of myself as I was several years ago, looking somewhat thinner. Now, what I'm doing here is I'm eating a Spanish dish called salmorejo. Does anybody know it? Have you heard of gazpacho?
Yes.
Okay, it's like gazpacho, but it's thicker. It's got bread in it, a little bit more garlic, and it tastes fantastic. But also, when it hits your stomach, it gives your stomach a clean feeling, like sushi. And I was enjoying that. I was enjoying the stomach feeling, the taste. And on this day, I was also enjoying the colour. And I took off my prescription sunglasses so I could enjoy the colour of the salmorejo. And I realised I found 3 things to enjoy about my dish. And then I thought, what 3 things am I going to enjoy about the pre-intermediate class of teenagers that I have in 45 minutes? And I think this is something that we forget, because this is our lives and we've decided to spend it in this way. We really need to be getting something out of every lesson. So what I would like to see, on every lesson plan, whether it's at in-house level or teacher training, I'd like to see a box like this. I'd like to enjoy, but for the teacher. And what I'd like you to do, who's teaching on Monday?
Me, either.
Okay. So I want you to do me a favour on Monday. Before your class, of each day, I'd like you to think of 3, each class on Monday, I'd like you to think of 3 things you're going to enjoy about each of those classes. It could be a tiny thing. You know, I want to find out what this student, if they had a good weekend. It could be a whole activity. But try to think of 3 things that you enjoy. This is my new revised what am I going to enjoy about the lesson. And I'm going to send this PowerPoint to Jason. Do we all know Jason?
Yes.
I'm going to send this to Jason, and Jason can send this to you. If you're impatient and you want it before, okay, send me an email. I'll send it to you directly. So, okay, reports and grades. You give your students their reports back, their grades, and you see the first thing they do is, it's like this, yeah? Ding, 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 yeah? Second thing they do, ding, to see what their friends got. And sometimes they compare, and also, if they feel that they've got a score that genuinely doesn't reflect their ability or their performance, you can make a little enemy there, yeah? It's like, maybe the teacher doesn't like me. Well, maybe I'll start not liking the teacher. So, this is what I like to give my students after they've had their report. And this has got 4 questions. The most important question is this first one. Are there any scores on your report that you feel are not an accurate reflection of your ability? And I gave this I gave this to a student, and she said to me, I think speaking is not right, because my friends, they all tell me I speak more than them. And they've got higher scores than I have. And I said to her, okay, if your speaking really is better, I should notice this, yeah? So what we'll do is this. I'll watch you for the next 2 weeks. And if I see that you do speak more, I'll increase your score retrospectively on the report. And she said, yeah, okay. And then I've made an ally out of somebody who could be an enemy. So we're giving a little bit of space for the frustration. And this is particularly good in sort of the mid-course, after the mid-course exams. Are you with me there? I was teaching some 8-year-olds, and one of them was called Gabby. And at the end of the lesson, he handed me a letter. He said, here, have this letter, teacher. I said, thank you. I put it on my shelf. At the beginning of the next lesson, he came and he said, have you read the letter? And I said, no. Don't want to get me to close it. He said, read it, teacher. And so finally I did. I read the letter. And it said, I'll translate from Spanish. It said, dear teacher, you're very cool and everything. But I want you to know one thing. My squabbles with Sergio, who he used to sit next to, they have to do with this. Sergio has been a classmate of mine since, and it had the date, 20th of the 10th, 2010. And from the very first day that I met him, he hasn't stopped meddling in my affairs. And I promised from that day on that I would have her. And I thought, okay, now I understand a little bit about how Gabby feels about Sergio. The thing is, Gabby's going to be trapped in a class with Sergio for the next 10 years. Some days, Gabby loves Sergio and they're best friends. Some days, he absolutely drives Sergio up the wall. So, what I've done is to try to counteract the personality clashes is this. When I say to the class, guys, it's combination A, they get into these groups. If you have more students, the combinations are bigger. If it's combination B, these groups. And if it's combination C, these groups. I put this up on the wall. Now, this allows me to sit at home, relaxing with a cup of coffee, and think, who do I want working together on a speaking activity? Who do I want working together doing a project? And who works well when they have to test each other? And this allows me to do differentiation, or groupings of a homogeneous level, or take into account personalities and personality clashes. Not in the moment when I'm, oh God, who do I want, who do I want, who do I want? I can do it in a relaxed way and then bring this to class. And the combinations may change throughout the year. And they say, teacher, that's changed. I say, yes, problem. You set up a speaking task, and then your students go off task, yeah? So some of them are speaking English, and some of them aren't. So the next technique is very simple. I say, guys, I've got a list of your names here. Sometimes I use a register, sometimes I use just a list. I say, I'm going to look at each one of you in turn. So Maleni, I'm going to look at you first, then Lucas. You won't know when I'm looking at you, probably. But what I'm going to do, each time I'm looking at you, I'm going to write down what you're doing. And then at the end of 2 minutes, I'll tell you how you did. Okay, teacher. So we start the speaking activity. They have a list of questions. Ready, steady, go. Maybe I bang my ninja death sticks. And they start talking. After 2 minutes, I stop them. And I say, okay, this is what we've got. So Marini, when I looked at you, you were asking Lucas a question. Lucas, when I looked at you, you were asking Maleni a question. Do we like asking questions? Yeah, in the speaking activity, it's pretty good. Nuria, you were listening. Angela, you were leaning forward to hear. Do we like listening? Yeah, because if nobody's listening, why speak? We go through. Sometimes if they're doing something strange, like one is pulling a hair off the other one's shoulder, oh yeah, I was. And then, ready, steady, go. We start speaking activity again, and they continue. What we're doing is we're just providing a little bit of guidance. They know somebody's actually looking and paying attention. Now, you might think that the students would resent this. This is like too much on top of them. But actually, what does a teenager want more than anything in the world? Attention. And they know that you're looking at them. They know you're paying some attention, so they don't mind. There is a balance, though. If you're doing this, it's very difficult to be monitoring for language at the same time. So we need half and half. Some days we're monitoring for a language, some days we're just trying to keep them on task, depending on the profile of the students involved. Okay, so we started off with 3 things that you're going to enjoy about Monday. What was the next one? 3 things you enjoy, that was the first one. The second one was? Student reactions to student reports. The next one was? Sorry? Combinations. And the next one was? Round the class. Can you tell the person next to you which one you liked most when you hear the Ninja Death Sticks? It's time to see some more. Ready, steady, go. They're not really Ninja Death Sticks, they're clays from a music shop, yeah, because obviously I'm not a ninja. But they're a little bit more neutral than bells. I use bells. But if you're doing a mingle activity to change partner, it's very clean, very and it doesn't intrude on the next class. We hope. This is my classroom. There. And normally my students sit around the outside of the room. But sometimes I ask them to come and sit with me, or to explain something to me. So we're playing with the tensions. Sometimes we can create a hotspot at the door and actually ask them to give us some language before they get in. The thinking behind that is, if I can't make you speak English here to get in, what chance have I got once you're inside? So I might ask them, for example, to tell me whether they've had a good day or not before they come in. Or I might ask them to give me something a little bit longer. I've got as downloadable resource to my methodology book, I've actually got 100 sentences that you can print off and have in your table, and you can ask people over the course of a year. If you want that, I can send you a very similar file anyway. The thing is though, there's always a balance, because if you've got a big class, what you don't want is people getting bored, kicking each other at the back. So there's whatever we do, there's always a plus side and a minus side. In the middle of the class, I'll often send 2 students out. Not because they're necessarily being naughty, but because they need a break from themselves. So I can see Albert over here, you know, starting to, he needs a rest from Albert. So I say, Albert, just go out there, and take Francisco with you. And he's like, am I being told off? No. There's an exercise on the wall out there. I want the 2 of you to go out and do it. Suddenly, I've given everybody else in the room a rest from Albert. Albert's got a rest from himself. He comes back in We're just moving people about, yeah? Creating tensions, but also relieving tensions. Some of the best primary teachers I've seen, halfway through the lesson, they'll say, right, everybody on these tables, toilet. And they just send them to the toilet rather than waiting until the students say, if there's a spare room, we'll go to the spare room. And we'll prepare an activity in the spare room, and I'll say, once you've finished, come back to the main room. So again, we're getting transition. And it's funny, but you would think that teenagers would want to be in the spare room away from the teacher. But once there's more students in the main room than the spare room, they want to get back. Because that's where the party is. I also like to send students outside of the school. So I'm imagining most of you guys, you work in schools where there's a schoolyard, a patio,
Yes.
which is protected by a door. So it's a safe environment. So this is perfect for you. My academy's on a busy street. But when I have worked in schools, it's even better. So let me show you the activity. I go outside. I stand here with my back to the building. And you can do this, stand with your back to the building of your school, looking out over the patio. We write down everything we can see. And then we make a little picture dictionary, like that. We take the images off, we put the English, but we ask our students to write what these are in Turkish here. So they're creating their own bilingual picture dictionary of everything they can see. Then we take them outside, we say, draw everything you can see, and they describe it. Suddenly the teacher, the words that I need, they're on this slide. It's magic. And now they can describe what they've been seeing since they were probably 5, 6 years old. So that's using the outside of the building. Finally, we can put our students in different rooms, in the corridors. We can give one the materials for a speaking exam, give them a clock, they're the examiner, and we create our examiners in different test rooms. Again, using the space that we have available to create facilitative tension. Are you with me there? Okay, question for you. What is the sum total of useless things? Thank you. So, the combined value of a number of worthless endeavours. And it doesn't matter if we add more zeros. I was doing I think it was indirect questions. Could have been conditional. I think it was indirect questions. We'll see in a minute. With a class of upper intermediate teams. And the 3 girls here, they've got the answers wrong. So far, they've done one thing and got no value. Then we went over the answers. But I didn't realise they weren't getting the right answers. So now they've done 2 things and got no value. Finally, we did some memorisation work where one partner read the sentence, stopped at the gap, and the other one had to try to remember what it was. So we're trying to take what's in the book and put it in their heads. They couldn't do it. They couldn't do it because they didn't have the right answers and they hadn't corrected the right answers. And that's the point where I realised. And I looked, I said, this is lamentable. And they looked at me blankly because they don't know what lamentable means. But I said, it's fascinating though. Can I take a picture? And I did. Finally, we got them corrected. My point is, I mean, a lot of the time we spend doing exercises in class and going over exercises. And that's just what we do, yeah? But when we think they're correcting the answers, a lot of the time we might be horrified at what's actually going down. And so another thing for you to do, not Monday, because I've given you some homework for Monday, Tuesday, as you go over the exercises with your students, just in each lesson you teach, take a moment just to go around and have a look at 5 students' exercises once they should have corrected it. I think you may be surprised. So what we need to do is we need to try to crack into that and infuse that moment with more significance. We could say, I'm going to check all the exercises afterwards. We could say somebody else is going to check. We could say, okay, so now just tell me the answers that we've got. But that's quite an important moment, given the fact that we spend so much time doing exercises. Okay? I was teaching a class of intermediate students, and they were doing my head in. I just couldn't get my voice to them. And I said, guys, this is me. Who is this? And they said, it's us, isn't it, teacher? I said, yes. And what's the green line? What do you think that might be? And they said, it's when you talk to us. I said, yes. So, what's this? And they said, is it when we talk to each other? I said, yes. This is the love that I have for you in my heart. When you talk to each other, dark clouds roll in, and they hide that love. It's still there, but it doesn't get to you. We understand that. Now, the next time, the next lesson, they're talking and have the crosstalk. I heard one of them say to the other, the lines. So what I've done is I've taken the stress that I'm feeling, because I was about to just go, but I pulled back and thought, how can I explain this in a way that, and a voice said, you shouldn't have to explain, just punish them. It's like, no, don't. Explain it in a way they understand. And this was it. So we can structure our message. Sometimes we feel indignant because we feel we shouldn't have to. But so much of the time we do.
That works for secondary school students?
Yeah, because they have an emerging sense of citizenship. They have an emerging conscience. And it helps. And when they're not doing it next time, instead of just saying, stop talking, you should know, you say, you're talking and my message is not reaching you, and I still love you.
Do you think it works for high school students?
I believe it will. Wednesday. This is the actual presentation I used, not the crafted PowerPoint version we just saw, but this. It was very, rudimentary and in the moment. So the pronunciation in your books often the words come in a little box, yeah? The words to practice. So I've had to put the words on the board, and then I drill them, and the challenge is to read all of these correctly and get to the end. So Achel started, and he said, yeah. And I said, Achel, I love you, but it's not yeah. It's yeah. Today it has to be right. Okay. So then Elu had it go, and he got all the way down to here until he said London. Oh, I did, yeah. So I'd already drilled these. I'd said, it has to be busy, not busy today. Yeah, it's journey, not journey. So, and Claudia, busy. Pablo got all the way down here until he said valuable. And Anna and Lucia got all the way to the end, and suddenly I've got a room full of people wanting to go. And Angel is sitting there and he's hearing everybody else. And then he says, teacher, can I have another go? Yes, you can. Ding, 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 ding. Angel too, that's his second go. My point is, when the enthusiasm is with the students, the control is with the teacher, not the other way around.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Were these words that they were probably pronouncing?
You could do it like that. These were all of the words from a box from English File Intermediate. So that was just the page I was doing on the day. But it could be problematic ones. Okay, a little bit of reverse structure now. I said to the class, you've got a test coming up on Friday. It's a revision test. And now you've got 10 minutes to make a cheat sheet. I said, what is a cheat sheet, teacher? I said, come on. It's a piece of paper where you put all the answers to the test. They said, we don't know what one of those is. I said, of course you don't. You've got 10 minutes to make one. So this was them making their cheat sheets. They said, teacher, do we put our name on this? And I said, no, don't ever do that. Why this? What they're doing is they're spending more time on the task. They're spending more time looking. If it's a test, they'll just do it, oh, I don't know, just A, B, 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 A. They're actually asking me. They're trying to get the right answers. They're doing the test. And we're using the test as a learning activity. Now, I did give them the instructions to this task printed out in case they took their cheat sheet home by accident and it got found. I don't want their parents to tell them off. So, I said, what happens if you take it home and it's in your trousers or in your pocket and it goes through the washing machine? I said, it'll get destroyed, teacher. I said, so it has to be waterproof. So we have waterproof cheat sheets. And they put a number on corresponding to their number on the register. And then we tested them. And they were indeed waterproof. They said, can we really use these cheat sheets in the test? I said, you've done the test. But we can do it one more time on Monday, because you haven't written the answers in. And you can use your cheat sheets, but don't let me see you. So we continued with the game. Now, obviously, you have to be very clear that this is something different. This is a compromised test, it's fun, and we have our serious exams. So as long as we make the line clear. I've got 2 cats. Sandy, who was in here before, and New Year this morning, she's got 4. But I'm happy with my 2. One of them is an absolute terror. And she jumps on you, and she does this with her claws, and it hurts. I spend a long time, like you guys, in front of a computer, and I have problems with my neck muscles, so yeah, it gets there, doesn't it? So I thought, how can I take Schmiegel, which is one of my cats, how can I take her behaviour and turn it into something I can use? So I've developed a technique. I click my fingers, and she jumps onto my back, and then she starts to give me a massage. And I get a cat massage, which is fun. What I've done is I've taken something that I didn't want and turned it into something I did want. In education, I think what we do is we try to take poor behaviour, then we try to turn it into good behaviour, and then we try to add some learning. I thought, what about if we just get rid of the middle bit? What if we take bad behaviour and try to turn it directly into learning? So we kind of phase that out. I've called it silliness into silliness. So these are my pencil conditionals. Because I had a class that never brought pencils. It was fine at the beginning of the term because I have my new pencils. But as the term goes on, we're losing time with materials. So if they want a pencil now, that's fine. Can I have a pencil, please? Yes, you can. But what they have to do is they have to take one of the pencil conditionals. Each one has a conditional on it. And they're numbered there. We've got 1, 2, 3, 0 mixed. There they are on the wall. They're laminated and hung on little pegs. And the thing that they have to do is they have to memorise their conditional sentence before the end of the lesson. And they have to be able to look me in the eyes and say the conditional. And my thinking is that if they can memorise one second conditional, they might be able to produce a second. And they kind of like that. They don't mind the extra attention because it means we're listening to them. Or you can take the conditionals directly onto the pencils. You could take anything onto a pencil and get them to learn it, really. So I heard 4 to go swimming. I thought 4 to go swimming is not right. I thought if I don't do something, that person's going to say 4 to go swimming, 4 to go shopping, 4 to go, 4 to learn. They're going to say 4 to and everything for the rest of their life. So I thought, this is an error. And I knew that it wasn't just this student. It was this student, this student, this student. So I thought, okay, it's one error. But I'm going to spend 5 minutes on this one error. Systematic error, it's worth the time. So I drew 3 boxes here. And I said, here are 3 boxes, and I wrote 3 incorrect sentences here, which you can see here. 4 to go swimming, 4 go swimming, and 2 go swimming. So we've got 2 bad ones, 1 good one. And I said the boxes were empty. I said, these boxes, they're airtight. And in 5 minutes, they're going to fill up with water. And anything that's inside the boxes will drown. I said, which box, Antonio, do you want to be in when they fill up with water? I said, by the way, the box next to the good sentence will not fill up with water. So in 1 box, people survive. In 2 boxes, Antonio says, I'd like to be in this box, please. So I put Antonio in this box. If you're not a drawer, you can just put Antonio's name. Antonio likes Antonio's name. Sandra chose this box. And it was interesting. The student who said 4 to go swimming before didn't even choose this box. Now, obviously, we're spending 5 or even 10 minutes on 1 error. But imagine if you can take 1 error that many students say and nobody ever says it again. So we've filled the moment. We've invested it with some sort of emotion. It could be boxes filling up with water, as this was. It could be giant blocks of concrete, which are about to fall on whoever is underneath the bad sentence. These are very quick little drawings. You can see I'm not really a drawer, but I think it conveys the message. Or it could be giant chainsaws, which are about to fall. But you get the idea about infusing the moment with a little bit of comedy that's going to be memorable. Okay, 2 minutes to tell the person next to you the idea you like the most. After that, I'll show you a couple more ideas, and then we're back to coffee, tea, and Okay, so we correct work so that something will change in our students' heads, yeah? But often it doesn't. But we keep correcting the work. So either we find some way to make it change something in their heads, or I recommend we just stop correcting work. If it's not going, it's another example of a useless endeavour. Yeah? Now, one of the systems I like to use, and I don't do this all the time because it's It's more heavy on photocopying, but I get in my student writings, I photocopy them. And then put the photocopies away, and I correct the work as normal. I return the corrected work. I say, look at the errors very closely, because next lesson I'm going to give you this. They say, what is that, teacher? I say, it's your original writing, uncorrected. And next lesson you're going to have to correct your own writing from memory, because I'm going to take the corrections away from you. So your homework is, go home, study the corrections, and then come to class, give me that, I'll give you your original, you correct it. You see where I'm going?
Yeah.
I think that one's good. Okay, so can you imagine that in 2 minutes' time, I'm sitting in a cafe, in 2 minutes' time, I'm going to lose my memory forever. And I just go to my mobile, and my mobile's, it's dead. I think, oh, in 2 minutes' time, my mind's going to go blank, and I won't know who I am, or any of the important things in my life. I look around, and I see some serviettes. I grab some serviettes, and I start writing on them. All the important things. It's a message to my future self. And this is what I've written on my serviette. I'm going to read it to you, and then ask you to ask me 3 questions. Okay? Number 1, go to Gmail for your contacts, friends and family. You can't drive, not even in your dreams, so don't try. And none of the cars in the car park are yours, so don't try to get into them. You have 2 cats. The orange one is a nightmare, the black and white one sleeps on your head. You live in Spain, you like it, stay there. You're trying to learn Arabic and Russian. If you forget how to teach, you've actually written a book about it. So you can read your own book, which should be suited to your particular style. You might be lactose intolerant. Questions? Cosita, which is little thing. He's the one we do love. Schmiegel's the one we don't.
Where are you going to keep that paper?
This one,
Yeah.
I'm going to hold it in my hand so that when the radioactive storm comes and wipes my memory, I'll be able to open my hand.
Remember what you, let's say, write, what you are doing. If you want to remember what you are doing, what you are doing.
I have to write the next reading. So I asked you to do that.
But you sure that it's your handwriting?
Positive, because I've just written, this is my handwriting. The reason I'm asking you to do that is because I've given you a reason to listen, yeah? That's the reason. Okay. But that's not actually true. I'm not going to lose my memory. You are. So, I believe we have about 3 minutes. I'm going to give you a serviette. And I'm going to ask you to write 3 or 4 things to your future self as quickly as you can. Remember, the storm is coming, the storm will wipe your memory.
Yeah, so I should put that there.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, what you're actually doing now is you're prioritising your life. Yeah? And what your students, well, no, but I mean, it's inherent in the activity. It's like a biography, but from a different angle. I'm telling you this because you probably won't have time to finish in this session. But in the next session, If there's a moment when you feel, oh, I just want to do something else, you could finish the list. Or when you're on the bus back to the hotel or the boat or home. You're creating, and what students do is they get drawn into this. You say 5 minutes, and then you say, okay, it's time to stop. No, just a little bit longer, a little bit longer. And they want more time. I'll give you another minute or two. And if you want to do this with your students, it's always good to have your own backup. You need the example first, so they can see. What they can do with this afterwards, we put them in pairs, and they ask questions about their partners. And then they take their partner's serviette home, and they write a biography about their partner. Now you need to tell them, don't put anything that's too private on your serviette, because you're going to be sharing. And they come back and they've written a biography about their partner, but it doesn't start in the boring way. You know, my partner was born in da-da-da-da. No, it's all about priorities. So it's much more, I think it's more interesting. And before they hand it in to you, it's one very important thing. All good biographies need to be authorised. So their partner has to read the biography and check that they agree with all the details in the biography. Is that something that you might be able to use with your older teams?
Yeah.
You want to see that? I can show you, okay, very, very quickly. This is the serviette future. This is what I read to you. I change it each time I do a conference, just so I remain interested. The toilet is more syllabus into silliness into syllabus. The student says, can I go to the toilet, teacher? I say, yes, you can. Take this with you. What is it? It is the criteria for a toilet review. While you're in the toilet, have a look, and then you come back and write a review about the toilet. This is for the students that always go to the toilet at the same time.
And they're going to stop asking, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
But then, in the crazy world of a teenager, one that wasn't going to ask will ask because they want the attention. They write the toilet review on a toilet paper. And I'm going to forward a little bit to give you guys a chance to have a break. I was asked about the methodology book, which is this one here. That's that. You can order it online. Come and have a look at it if you want. And if anybody's in the UK in summer, I'm going to be doing a week which is methodology for teaching teams for Hugh Della and Andrew Walkley's Lexical Lab. That's a whole week just on teams teaching.
Can you show your email again, please?
Yeah, most definitely.
Previous.
I shall go back in 10 seconds. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So have a wonderful rest of the day. Feel free to come up and have a look at this, or have a go with the Ninja Desks, and I'll see you all in the morning.
Şey,